Hi everyone, my name is Bronwyn. I am from the Tasmanian Future Students team at the University of Tasmania, and we're all here tonight to talk about our marine, Antarctic and environment courses. And we have a large team from the university here to answer all of your questions. Before we get too far into things, I would just like to take a moment to give a quick acknowledgement of country. So I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land across all of the places that you're joining us from around Australia tonight. Here at the University of Tasmania, that's usually the Palawa Pakana people. Respecting Indigenous knowledge and perspectives is something that the university is quite committed to, and something that you'll definitely see throughout your time studying with us. What we're going to be talking about tonight is, first off, why you would study with the University of Tasmania, why you should study a marine, Antarctic or environment course with us. Then we're going to run through in some more detail the course options available, and that's when you'll get to meet lots of members of our teaching teams. And then we'll talk quickly about fees and scholarships and how to apply, and then we'll have some time to answer some questions at the end. Speaking of questions, the way that you ask those is it's at the bottom of my screen on my computer. It might be somewhere else on yours, but you'll see a Q&A button. Please, as soon as you've got a question, if there's a question you are hoping we'd answer tonight, go ahead and ask it now. We've got heaps of content to get through, and I don't want to run out of time at the end. So please, as soon as you think of a question, ask it in there so that we've got plenty of time to get to it. Quickly, before we jump into all of the course-specific content, I wanted to run through just a few reasons why you should study with the University of Tasmania. The first is that we have above average student satisfaction. So we have 82% satisfaction with teaching quality and engagement compared to 80% nationally. We also have really strong graduate outcomes. We've got an 82% full-time employment rate for our undergraduate degrees, and it's 96% for postgraduate. And both of those sets of stats there come from a national survey that's administered by the government to sort of rate the quality of different universities' student satisfaction and graduate outcomes. We also provide really excellent student support. So whether you need academic help or career guidance or some help in your personal life, anything that's impacting your life as a student really, you can reach out and find help. And the last reason, which is especially relevant to tonight's webinar topic, is that we're #1 in the world for climate action. So this comes from something called the Times Higher Education Impact Rankings, and it looks at everything that we do as a university, including what we teach, the research we do, the environmental impact of our physical teaching spaces, all sorts of things. So it's a real demonstration that this university has a genuine commitment to sustainability, and it is something that we are very proud of. So on to why you would actually study a marine, Antarctic or an environment course with us. So the first reason is there's really no better place than Tasmania. We're existing here in World Heritage listed natural environments. There's unique wildlife and pristine seascapes, and we've got incredible proximity to Antarctica as well, which is especially relevant for our marine and Antarctic science courses. There's plenty of hands-on learning throughout these degrees. That happens in a range of ways, like field trips exploring the natural environment, work placements, industry tours, and learning in some of our cutting-edge simulation facilities in places like the Australian Maritime College. And you'll also learn from the best. So they're very modest, but all of the people who are in this webinar tonight are really passionate teachers and experts in their field. The University of Tasmania is home to some of the world's top marine, Antarctic and environmental researchers. And a lot of our students really love being taught by such experts in their field. So now to introduce a few of those, these are the courses that we are going to be talking about tonight. So in the marine and Antarctic space, we offer an undergraduate certificate in Antarctic and climate science, as well as a Bachelor of Marine and Antarctic Science, and they're associated with our Institute for Marine and Antarctic Studies. In the environment space, there's the undergraduate certificate in data and environmental management and the Bachelor of Natural Environments and Conservation. We also offer a Bachelor of Science, and there's 16 different majors to choose from there. And lots of those cover things within this broad realm of environment and the natural environment. And lastly, we'll be talking about nautical science and marine engineering. We offer 2 bachelors of applied science there, and they come from our Australian Maritime College.
Hi, everyone, this is Stuart. I'm going to jump in and talk about the undergraduate certificate while Scott figures out his technical issues there. So welcome, everyone. We were going to do the bachelor's degree that IMAS offers first and then talk about our undergraduate certificate. We'll do it the other way around now. So the undergraduate certificate is it's a great transitional course for those who are maybe not sure if the university is the right place for them, or if you're more later entry student who's looking to get back into university or wanting to work full time. So it's a half-year degree, or it's 4 units across the space of a year, so it's part-time. It's delivered entirely online, 100% HEX fee waived, so you don't build up a HEX debt. And it is open to anyone who's completed the TCE or a range of other options. So what do you study? We have 4 subjects there. We're trying to introduce students to well, Antarctic and climate science. So we talk about the science of climate change. We do an introduction to marine and Antarctic science. That in second semester we do a unit on the primer of marine and Antarctic science to really focus across the whole range of activities that IMAS does. And finally, we finish it with Law of the Oceans and the Antarctic, which is it's a law degree, a law unit, and it talks about how we govern the oceans and how we reach consensus and decide what happens on the open ocean. Importantly, if you do this unit and then you wish to transition into a Bachelor of Marine and Antarctic Science, all 4 units count as course credit, so you can take them off your BMAS degree, or in fact, many other degrees within COSI as well, if you then complete this and decide to move on to a full degree. That's all from me. Hopefully Scott's back again.
Yes, I think he is. So we'll rewind now.
Hello.
And go to Scott. There we go.
Thank you, everybody. Sorry, connectivity issues. Hi, everybody. My name is Scott Bennett. I'm the coordinator for the Bachelor of Marine and Antarctic Science at the Institute of Marine and Antarctic Studies. The Bachelor of Marine and Antarctic Science is a 3-year degree, maximum of 7 years, and it's located entirely in Hobart now. And there's a really exciting place to study marine science in Hobart. We have 2 IMAS campuses, and currently our one at Waterfront is dedicated to teaching, but we have a really exciting new facility also coming online at our second campus down in Taroona, where a lot of our fisheries and aquaculture science takes place. Entry requirements for the degree. There's various pathways you can take, either through TCE studies or equivalent for interstate students, and alternate pathways. There's also the early entry programs too, which we encourage students to look into. Within the Bachelor of Marine and Antarctic Science, we have 5 degrees available, and these really represent both, fundamentally important areas of marine science and also our core areas of research expertise within IMAS. And so these are marine biology and marine resource management, marine and Antarctic governance, oceanography, and sustainable aquaculture. And you'll notice that for each of those majors, there are different prerequisite requirements for some of the courses. So for marine biology, we have prerequisite of chemistry and general mathematics. For oceanography, we have prerequisites of mathematics, methods, and physics. And course outcomes, there really are generally a really wide range of career outcomes across marine-oriented sectors. So it's a really exciting time actually in marine science in Tasmania, but in Australia and globally for multiple reasons. Obviously, we have a number of enormous environmental challenges that we're facing, and with that brings a number of some huge opportunities. And Australia is really at the forefront of a lot of those opportunities, and a lot of those are ocean based. We have an enormous marine territory, one of the largest marine territories in the world, And our blue economy, the industries and the environment around Australia do present some really exciting opportunities, and IMAS is really well positioned at the centre of those. So, Bronwyn, if you'd like to pop to the next slide. So I just want to speak briefly about our 5 majors in a bit more detail. So again, within our degree, 5 majors. The first one, marine biology, and this is really focuses on the plants and animals, biology and ecology of temperate marine environments, both the reefs around Tasmania, but also extending out into the Southern Ocean and Antarctic ecosystems. And this really has, you know, a broad geographic scale in focus of the degree, but also broad biological focus from, you know, our largest organisms like our cetaceans, our whales and mammals, to the microscopic organisms like plankton. Marine resource management. So this is our fisheries degree. And this is really unique, you know, the leading fisheries degree in Australia. And it's at the, you know, genuinely the best place to study fisheries in Australia. All the fisheries researchers in Tasmania that provide our fisheries assessments for government are housed in IMAS, and they are the staff that teach into the degree. So it's a really exciting place to study fisheries and huge demand for graduates that come out of that degree. Marine and Antarctic governance, hugely important degree. Again, and you'll see each of these majors are quite distinct from one another. Marine and Antarctic governance is learning about the complex environmental issues affecting our oceans and Antarctica, and how to communicate those and implement those into policy. Oceanography studies the oceans, currents, changing ocean temperatures, sea levels, and the role the ocean plays in the climate system. Again, fundamentally important degree covering a really wide range of things from in terms of global climate systems and dynamics, and hugely transferable skills. So graduates that are coming out of the oceanography degree are extremely employable across a huge range of sectors due to that really strong mathematical computational knowledge that they develop through that degree. And finally, last but not least, sustainable aquaculture. And this is really one of our well, they're all flagship degrees, but sustainable aquaculture as well, to really gain knowledge and skills into innovative processes that provide sustainable environmental, economic, and community benefits. And so Tasmania is at the forefront of aquaculture. We have some really big industries here, and there is a real global challenge to feed the world, you know, provide protein for the world and do it in a sustainable manner. And so this degree really is at the forefront within Australia of working on those solutions to address that global need. Thanks, Bronwyn.
Great.
I think that's
okay. So I'll skip over the undergraduate certificate that we've already covered, and I can see there's lots of questions coming through in the Q&A. So please keep all of those coming, and we'll all work away in the background to answer them. But I'll hand over to Rachel now, who will be speaking about the Bachelor of Natural Environments and Conservation. I think, sorry, I realised as I was saying that I might have got that wrong. It could be Vishnu speaking about this one.
Thanks, Bronwyn. Yeah, so I'm the course coordinator of the Bachelor of Natural Environments and Conservation, or BNEC in shorter terms. I'm a senior lecturer in the Geography, Planning and Spatial Science School based in Hobart. So this is a degree that is designed for students who are passionate about the natural environment, and specifically they're passionate about conserving the natural environment. This is also a degree that is deeply embedded in geography, and that introduces you to multiple perspectives and multiple disciplines. So right from year one, we explore introduction to geography, both from a human perspective, from a physical perspective, so they're part of your major units. And then you expand that further in your year two, where you explore human geography and physical geography. One of the questions in the chat was about climate and introduce concepts of climate in year one. And we build that on in year two, and we have a specific unit designated on dealing with climate change in year three. So within the school, we have people who are experts on climate science and been involved in co-authoring IPCC reports. So Kathleen Bayer is one of them, will be teaching that unit in year 3 on managing climate change. The course itself is focused on conservation. Obviously, climate change is one part of it, but there's biodiversity, terrestrial biodiversity, wetlands, and that's my own area of interest. I'm an expert on wetlands, so I bring that into the teaching of the course. One of the things that we pride about in terms of BNEC is the amount of field work that's involved, obviously, in terms of understanding the natural environment in person and working with hands-on skills like surveying equipment, using a GPS, running a transect and doing a vegetation survey. So we do that all the way from year 1. The first field trip is in week 3. And we've just had students go out this week learning about Aboriginal heritage as part of understanding our natural environments and conservation. So that carries on to year 2 units, and in year 3 units, we've got field work all the way through. Having said that, we also offer flexibility for students who are studying online, recognizing that, you know, sometimes students have to mix, have the flexibility in being able to do things online. We've created virtual field trips, and we do ask students to come and spend some quality time here with us, but that's condensed. You know, you'll have 3 days or 8 days in a row that you're here, but then you're able to go back to where you are and do the rest of the course online. So we've got 8 major units, 8 core units that cover various aspects of conservation and environment with the geography flavor. But we've also got 8 electives. And what we have the 8 electives for is to accommodate varying interests that students have. You know, if students are interested in legal aspects, if you like, you can have a study plan that integrates lots of other units from the law faculty, or if you're interested in economics, you can have a study plan that relates to ecological economics, or we've got more students now interested in restoration, so we can develop a study plan that tailors your interest in terms of restoration. That's my job, is to work with students and understand what their interests are and how it's shaping from year on year, and offer units in that elective space that goes across the university. I'm happy to stay back and answer further questions later on, but I guess that hopefully gives you a sense of what that course is about and what's involved in it. Thank you.
Thanks. So this will be Rachel talking about the undergraduate certificate in data and environmental management.
Thanks, Bronwyn. So I'm Rachel Hurd. I'm the coordinator for geospatial sciences at the university. This is an undergraduate certificate similar to the one that Stuart talked about, but this one is in data and environmental management. This undergraduate course is an entry-level course for people who want to get back into study or want some upskills, or just want to have a go at something new and see how they go. So, or for people who want to take a small step into university studies. So it's a nice little package of units that really give you some skills in data management and understanding environmental data in particular. So it's a series of units in geospatial science, which is things like GIS, or computerized mapping, and spatial analysis, remote sensing, so using satellites to help understand environmental situations. There's a climate change unit, geography unit, data handling and statistics unit, and a programming unit. So it's a really nice skills-based introduction to first-year study in the data and environment side of what we do. It is available fully online and is available for part-time or full-time study over either one semester or a full year. There's a core unit that everyone has to do, which is the data handling and statistics, which is a nice little introduction back into maths for anyone that might have been out of maths for a while. And then one unit each from geospatial science, geography and ICT. These 4 units are fairly generic science skills units, so would be useful as credit into most science type degrees at the university. And And in particular, there is a direct pathway into the Bachelor of Geospatial Science, where you could take those skills and expand them into understanding the environment through computerized mapping, digital twins, 3D models, satellite remote sensing, and all the things that we do in geospatial science. But equally, you could take it into the BNEC or any of the ones that we're talking about today as either electives or core, depending on how it maps to those degrees. I think it's a great little certificate, and it's a really useful certificate to do on its own or as a stepping stone into study. I think that's it.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you so much, Rachel. And I'll just address, I've seen a couple questions come through the chat about the 100% HEX fee scholarship that's on both of these undergraduate certificates we've talked about tonight. At this point in time, they're just confirmed for 2024, and we don't have a definitive answer for what's happening in 2025. So what that means is that if you were to study them full time, which Rachel's mentioned with this one you can do online, you'd need to finish in 2024, so in semester 2 this year, to get the whole thing free. And it's at this point unknown what will happen moving forward. What I can tell you though is that any units that you do complete, like let's say hypothetically you complete 1 or 2 units from either of these undergraduate certificates, you've still completed that unit, and you'll have you'll get an academic transcript to say you've completed it. So if you were to go on to do some other kind of study with us, you can apply for credit transfer and all of that sort of thing. You don't necessarily have to finish the entire qualification for that. So we will jump now over to the world of AMC, which is the Australian Maritime College, and I believe Daryl might be talking about these particular courses, the Bachelors of Applied Science.
All right, yes. So good evening, everyone. I am Daryl Silva. Because it's a seafaring course, let me say I'm Captain Daryl Silva, being on a ship. And I'm the Deputy Director in that area. We offer courses. There are 2 types of courses that you see on screen now. So we offer 2 types of degrees, undergraduate degrees. Mainly, this is for those who are aspiring to be nautical or navigation officers with the ultimate of being a ship's captain, or marine engineers, where you would end up as a chief engineer on a ship. These are 2 different undergraduate programs. Both are of 4-year duration, and it is based in Launceston only. You can see here that we are showing that it is blended, which means that you don't have to be on campus for all of your study time. The course is structured in a way that you could be on your ship and still study if you are on the ship. If you are with your family in a place, you can still remotely study partly, and then come back to do the college and continue face-to-face. So that's why it's blended, giving you the flexibility to work while you study at the same time. The entry requirement here is generally for school leavers. What we see here that you have to have your normal general maths, physical science, and the English pass for year 10. But both courses have got various other pathways or entry pathways into the program. A school leaver will typically come in the year 1, but experienced seafarers may have the opportunity to get into the 2nd year of the degree or the 3rd year of the degree program. And what we study here is, of course, ships are there. These are all to do with the curriculum of, being a nautical officer or a marine engineer, is to take a ship from one port to the other, and that ship has to carry cargo, inclusive of passengers. They are also cargo, and to run from A to B, they should have machines, engines. So our curriculum is all actually encompassing all the operations that are required for navigating a ship, for looking after this cargo that you get to carry from A to B, and to run the machinery and maintain them. So these are the types of tasks that you are expected to do. There are lots of units within the program. On top of that, since you are going to be at sea, there will be also a suite of safety courses that everyone will have to follow for their own safety and others. Career outcomes, there is a plethora of job opportunities. Say, depends on whether you take up the path of Bachelor of Applied Science, Nautical Science, or whether you take the pathway of a marine engineering program. For nautical science, easiest thing is you would know about being a pilot, not a flying pilot, but a pilot, a marine pilot who takes ships into ports. You can be a ship harbor master. You could be a marine surveyor. You could be a maritime lawyer. You could take up jobs in schools like the Australian Maritime College as lecturers. You can be simulator instructors, company managers, operations. There are plenty of job opportunities in this area. The one thing that I should remind you, whoever is listening, that the AMC, that is the Australian Maritime College, has consecutively for 3 years have been ranked the #1 maritime university within the maritime universities in the world. That's, I think, all right.
Yes, great. We'll go on to the actual structure of the degrees.
All right. So we have here on the top is the Bachelor of Applied Science Nautical Science degree, which is very much similar. The structure is similar to marine engineering. If I go through the first one, you would see that there is year 1, year 2, and year 3. The year 1 is where school leavers coming as a pre-sea deck cadet. So you choose this pathway, the top one, if you are wanting to be a captain on a ship. Now, at the end of your course, the 3rd year, you get your bachelor's degree. And if you go to this pathway, by the end of it, you would also have your certificate of competency, a professional certificate as a ship's master, as a captain of a ship. So you get a dual qualification here, one as academic, one a professional qualification. At the first year of study, as you finish it, you have to work on a ship. So there is a requirement that you have to be employed on a ship more than 500 tons gross tonnage, which you can explain if you need more details. And you come into the 2nd year after some preliminary sea time. This is just for someone to be familiarized with sea and the tasks that are involved. You come to the 2nd year with a minimum of 9 months of sea time. The requirement is to have 18 months, but coming into the year 2, you have to have at least 9 months. After the 2nd year, you could straight away go into the 3rd year without going to sea, or you could go back to sea and acquire the remaining 9 months. By the 3rd year, you could go for oral examinations, which is conducted by the Australian Maritime Safety Authority. So the 3rd year is the final year, and you are qualified as a deck watch keeper then. But if you went through the pathway of getting 18 months by the 2nd year, could be a bit complicated, 2nd year, you can get your watchkeeper license at the end of the 2nd year, the deck watchkeeper license. And then you progress towards your 3rd year and your chief mate licenses. So going to the marine engineering program, it's similar, but the sea time requirement is half of it, 9 months. And both programs, you don't have to get into year one if you have already having some background of seafaring, you're having seafaring experience, you can come into year two. And if you have another certificate of competency, appropriate one, you could come into year three directly. So there are different pathways that you can get into without going to a whole 3-year program. I think it's a bit complicated, but if somebody is interested, we could explain one-to-one.
Yeah, great. We can always, if people want to get more information on this or talk through some really specific circumstances, I can definitely connect you following this. So we might keep things moving. We're sort of officially out of time, but we'll keep going. So we've got a few more slides to do, and I want to give people a chance to ask any additional questions they have. So I can see there's been loads of different questions in the chat, so please keep them coming. So one question that we often get from pretty much every student that we speak to is how much will my course cost? And the thing to be aware of there is that degrees are priced by unit or subject. So the total cost can vary based on the unit choice. And if you go to the course listing on our website for the degree that you're interested in, when you get down to the section that talks about the units in the course, if you follow the links through, you'll get to a page about the unit and the individual cost is listed there. And sorry, I've just noticed now I have some wording there about pre-service teaching, which isn't relevant, but something that you should be aware of. I think pretty much everyone on the call tonight is a domestic student, which means that you would be eligible for a Commonwealth supported place. And that means that the government subsidises part of your fees, and you will be able to get a help loan to cover those fees, which you would only start paying back once you're earning over $54,000. So the amount that you pay is sort of set by the government for different study areas. So it can range from about $4,500 up to $16,000, just depending on what you choose. And I would say a lot of the things that you would study, you might pick up a business unit somewhere along the way and it becomes different, but it would be band 2 for a lot of the courses that we're talking about tonight at the undergraduate level. And the FSOL, that's equivalent full-time study load. So that's the annual cost. So you can use that as a bit of a rough guide. Speaking of costs, though, I know it can sound like a lot of money, but in addition to having stronger career outcomes and long-term wage growth over your lifetime from having a degree, there's also financial support available to you while you're studying. So we offer hundreds of scholarships across all sorts of areas. There's too many to list. And another thing you can investigate is external scholarships offered by a range of other businesses and organisations. So places like Rotary clubs, Zonta clubs, all of that sort of thing. If you're already working and you're looking to upskill for your current career, some workplaces contribute towards the costs of education cost and career development. And it's also possible to claim costs related to your study on your tax if your study relates to your career. And of course, Services Australia, it's now called, not Centrelink, offers youth allowance and AusStudy and rent assistance if you study full-time and meet the income and asset tests. So I would encourage anyone who's planning to study full-time to look into whether or not they qualify for any of that. For those of you who haven't applied yet, I encourage you to do so soon. Applying online is easy and free, and you can reach out for help at any point along the way. When you apply online, you just go to utas.edu.au/apply, and you can apply for up to 5 courses at once. It's just a step-by-step application portal. Something that a lot of people will ask us is, oh, am I eligible for this? Will I get into that course? That's not something that you necessarily need to decide up front. The way that we talk to students about these 5 preferences you can put in is put the course you really want to get into first. And our applications team will assess whether or not you're eligible. and then you can put other courses that can help you get there afterwards. There's been mention tonight of the undergraduate certificate in science. There's also a university preparation pathway and a diploma of university studies. I guess the main point there is if you put in the application, our applications team will get back to you and let you know what you need to do to get where you want to be, essentially. So after you apply, we will get back to you with an offer and further steps on what you need to do. And you just log back into the application portal and accept that, and then you'll be able to enroll in your individual units. And your course might have a strict study plan to follow, or you may have a lot of electives. Once you get to that point, though, there's plenty of support all along the way. We have lots of orientation sessions to guide people through all of these things. So we might jump back to the Q&A section, and we had some great questions come in before the webinar. So I might start with Scott with a couple of the questions that were asked about marine and Antarctic science in advance. So one question was, can I do a double degree with marine and Antarctic science and environment and conservation?
The short answer is yes, you can. The way that the double degrees work, so each of our degrees, as Vishnu went through, in fact, are made up of our major units, our core units, and our electives. Now, those elective units, you can choose any units across the universities. They're quite transferable. The major units and the core units are quite specific to the degrees, and so they're less transferable. And so doing a double degree, as opposed to a double major, doing a double degree, it will often take longer than the 3 years of doing a single degree, 4 or 5 years in this case, because not all units are transferable. But it is quicker than doing 2 individual degrees. And the only other comment I would make on that is so doing double majors, for instance, is quite different. So if you remember, within the Bachelor of Marine and Antarctic Science, we have 5 majors, and they actually do map onto each other quite well. So you can do a double major and complete it within the 3 years, the same as a single major. And that just requires you to fill all your elective spaces with the major units from one of the other majors. Double degree is slightly different because, again, those and the reason why that works for a double major is that all the core units map onto each other. So the core units for each major are the same. Within a double degree, all the core units aren't the same, and so it requires an extra year or a bit, depending on how quickly you go.
Fantastic. There was one more question that you might have addressed a little bit when we were on your slides, but just to elaborate on it a bit more, we had someone ask, what are the actual jobs out there as a marine biologist?
Yeah, it is a great question, common question, particularly from parents. And I think the answer is there are a lot of jobs now. I mentioned before, it's a really exciting time for marine science and marine biology in particular, and there are genuine career outcomes across a range of sectors. So, I mean, the first one obviously is the academic sector. You can be an academic, you can be a research scientist, like myself and many of the panelists here. And there are a number of employers in that academic space, research scientist space from universities, but also, you know, government sectors like even that we have here in Hobart, CSIRO, the Australian Antarctic Division, are all employers of marine biologists in as research scientists. But beyond that, there's also like a really growing number of other opportunities, and they include the private sector. So a lot of really exciting businesses opening up both here in Tasmania, but also all around Australia, that require skills of marine biologists, or require marine biologists to do the research or do the work to produce, you know, to manufacture the products. And you know, one classic example I have here in Tasmania is Sea Forest, which is a really innovative company up on the east coast of Tasmania that grows seaweed to feed to cattle to reduce methane emissions. And this company is employing a lot of marine biologists from Tassie into that sector. And these sort of companies are popping up all over the place. Additionally, we've got the non-government sectors, so a lot of NGOs, places like the Nature Conservancy, for instance, big employer of marine biologists into restoration and management sort of industries, and government sectors, places like our natural resources, Department of Natural Resources and Environment in each state are also big employers of marine biologists. So there are genuine opportunities, and there is yeah, it's a really exciting time to study marine biology.
Awesome. Thank you, Scott. Especially, I'm very excited about the sea kelp thing. I live right near Ashgrove Milk, and they've just released a milk that is an eco milk that the cows eat kelp to create. There have been a couple questions that I wanted to recap on that have come through the chat just around timing of applications. So applications are open now for study in semester 2 of 2024. So if you're currently in high school, you'd be looking at starting next year. So you would want to wait for the school's recommendation program, which is the early entry program that Scott mentioned earlier on in the conversation. And that will open in June, and you will hear about it through your school. And if you're not currently in school, but you are also thinking about studying next year, applications for next year will open a little later in the year, but we will certainly let you know about that. I might just give people another small moment to pop in some more questions, but we will aim to finish up quite soon. If there's anything that we're not able to get answered tonight, there is a record of all of the questions that have been asked, and I'll make sure that you get definitive answers over email. I can see that Rachel's answering a question about the employment rate after completion of the Bachelor of Natural Environments and Conservation. She might know that off the top of her head, but there is a website called Compare Ed, which has employment rates by study area for every university in Australia. They've got some fantastic tools. You can go on and compare different universities to one another. It wouldn't have it down to the very, very minor level of the individual course, but it would show you broadly what our employment rates are post-graduation. But we'll see what Rachel says, because I'm sure that she's much more informed than I am on this matter. I will just take a quick look and see if there's any other questions in the chat that are worth addressing. There was a great question about class sizes, and Stuart has answered that class sizes vary. So this is talking about the Bachelor of Marine and Antarctic Science. So he said that generally in tutorials or workshops, there's around 20 to 40 students, and the teaching lab can accommodate a maximum of 45 students at once. So something that we say about all of our courses across the University of Tasmania in general is that we have smaller class sizes than a lot of other very large universities, which enables a much closer relationship with teaching staff, which students really enjoy. Well, I hope that everyone has had their questions answered. I am going to have to wrap up because we won't be able to keep everyone online for too much longer. I will follow up after this and send everyone a copy of the recording, and you'll be free to ask more questions at that point in time. Thank you all so much to all of our panelists who came along to speak tonight. And thank you all for attending. I hope that you enjoy the rest of your evenings, and hopefully we will see you in the future as a student at the University of Tasmania. So good night, everyone.